just yesterday, my oldest one, she said something. I can't remember exactly what she said, but she's like, boy, I had so many tears 3 months ago. And today, like I'm so happy because we have our puppy. And, and so just seeing her being able to recognize even through the hard times of losing a dog, and now we have a puppy, just being grateful for that. So I just wanted to bring that in because it was a flippant comment. We were spending time with the puppy, but we have the puppy because we went through a hard time.
Welcome to another episode of the Eternal Optimist podcast. And I am looking at the man, the myth, who he will go down as a legend, Mr. Erik Van Horn. Erik, tell us, and you cannot say, I'm good. Tell us how you're doing today, Erik.
Bueno, muy bueno.
Muy bueno. What is muy bueno in your world today that caused you to smile and feel that way?
Dude, life is good. Someone asked me the other day, if you could be, I was interviewing somebody for one of my portfolio companies, and they said, what would you want if you could go back and design your life to be how you wanted it today? What would you change? I'm like, there's nothing I would change. I just looked at the last week. I'm like, I've had the best last week ever. And I'm like, every week is just a really good week. We went boating with the kids. I got work done. We went, we have a new puppy. We, there's so many, the weather's nice. There's so many things to complain about, but I was just thinking business, family, life is really good, really, really good right now. And it's not always that way, but life is really good right now. And today, it's a beautiful day out, and got to play some pickleball and got to hang out with some unexpected friends that were rolling through town, had coffee for 2 hours. So it was a really good day. I'm doing great.
Fantastic. Great answer. And for anyone out there who's thinking, oh man, Erik, he just sounds like life is so perfect and so easy. There is a lot to unpack, and Erik has overcome a lot in the world and business, and he's incredibly successful now because he just kept going and he kept learning, and we're going to unpack some of that today. So Erik, I'd love to dive right into the deep end. What is a tremendous challenge that you faced in your business world that you had to learn, overcome, and to get where you are today?
I'm going to go mini challenge, and I go into that bigger challenge, Matt, because in the thing that I said, I mentioned puppy. Beginning of the summer, we lost the best dog we've ever had. So if you were to ask me 3 months ago how life was, we had tears in our eyes on a daily basis because we had a dog that was 5 years old, a Bernedoodle, that all of a sudden was bleeding internally. And we went a month taking her to the best vets, having surgery, spending thousands of dollars trying to save her life. And then we were with her when she breathed her last breath. And so it was a really challenging time for the family. A dog, but she was the best dog I've ever had. And so when I said, it's a great day, we took the puppy out and we had a great time with the puppy, 3 months ago, it wouldn't have been that way because we would have been spending the day with our dog or taking an emergency trip here or there. So truly is a great day. And the kids were just yesterday, my oldest one, she said something. I can't remember exactly what she said, but she's like, boy, I had so many tears 3 months ago. And today, I'm so happy because we have our puppy. And, and so just seeing her being able to recognize even through the hard times of losing a dog, and now we have a puppy, just being grateful for that. So I just wanted to bring that in because it was a flippant comment. We were spending time with the puppy, but we have the puppy because we went through a hard time.
Dude, man, I'm so glad you shared that, Erik, because I wrote it down. I remember when we were connecting 7 months ago and how tough that was. Yeah, the very first episode I ever recorded on this show, this is going to be episode 105, and the first episode ever was John Berghoff. And the first thing he shared was he and his family, literally a couple of days before we recorded, they walked outside and their puppy walked out into the road, less than a year old, and got hit by a car in front of all of them. And it was the saddest thing. And it was an emotional start to our podcast. So to hear you share that, it's thank you for Yeah, for sharing that perspective. Perspective. That's everything,
That's it.
isn't it, man? That's it.
100%. 100%. And then just going
Yeah.
through that with the kids, we didn't shield them from anything because at one point, our youngest, who's at 9, said, "Is Piper going to die?" And we had the choice to like lie to her, give her false hope, or just tell her the truth. And we're like, yes. And then tears started flowing from everybody. So, it's just a good, hard experience, but these hard experiences, like they're so good at the same time. You can see good in them, like you said, perspective. So I get teared up now even talking about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's a personal example, very recent. Let's talk hard experience with business and what's been a challenge for you, and that could be anything. I mean, any perspective you might have, but what's something that's been difficult?
So yeah, as I think about it, a number of years ago, I kind of stopped you know, a 8-figure paycheck to do a startup, and the startup we had plans for the startup, me and a couple other guys, and the plans were to to grow a brand and to have a $100 million exit in 3 to 5 years, and then maybe rinse and repeat that every year or something after that. But that was the plan. And somewhere along the way, the plan was to change, to scale more, to do 5 companies and 6 companies and 8 companies and 12 companies in the same period of time. So that all sounds great because now you're talking $1 billion exit. The challenge was, it was the time commitment that I was involved, and realizing where my family was at the stage of life, kids 8, 9, and 11, my 3 daughters, in 5 years of traveling all the time and being gone and not being present because I was building something really big, possibly life-changing money. I realized that, what was going to change was me not being able to be around them during that time. And like, what would I pay to have that time with them? What would I do to be able to spend 5 years with my daughters in this critical time in our lives? And so I eventually sold my shares in that particular company because it wasn't going to work out. I was not going to sacrifice the time that it took to build a company like that, and sacrifice my family at the same time. So that, as I say it, it doesn't sound that big of a deal, but I mean, it's tempting. It's hard because
Yeah.
you have to give up something again. And then you think, oh man, am I a failure because I'm not devoting as much time to a business that could be amazing? And then, like, what do you do next? Because I stopped this thing that was providing a lot of cash flow to me. I stopped it and I just couldn't start it back up. And now I don't have this big exit in a few years. And so that was just challenging in a lot of different ways. It took about a year to kind of get my feet under me to be at the point like where I probably had confidence to do certain things, where I had infrastructure to do something different. But at the same time, it felt so good to make that kind of decision. And it really, my girls knew why I did it. My wife knew why I did it. And so that was a challenging time, man, a challenging time.
Wow. I think if I read between the lines here, what I just heard is that your time with your 8, 9, 11-year-old daughters at the time for the next 5 years was worth more than $100 million to you.
100%.
Because it was big business, a lot of effort, energy, a lot of away time, and you chose family over that. How did you come to that conclusion to choose family over that? Because a lot of people would take the money. I'm not indicting them or judging them in any way, but
No,
for
and there's
you,
nothing
you
wrong with
chose
that
that.
too. It
Yeah.
wasn't like it's not like it was a decision that is probably based in some things that, so my wife, she lost her mom when she was in her early 20s to cancer. And so marrying her and knowing that she doesn't have a mom, and then her dad eventually got remarried. And then about 5 years ago, we get a phone call from his wife, who's a great lady. And she just on the phone, she's like, she called a couple of times, and we're getting the kids ready for school. Called a couple of times, and she never does that. And so I answered the phone, and all she said is, "He's gone." Like, what do you mean? And she's like, "He's gone." And she couldn't get the words out. That's all she said for like probably 10, 15 seconds. It felt like, minutes. And she said, he had a heart attack in the middle of the night and he's gone. And I was there on the couch, my wife next to me, wondering what's going on because she hears my concern. And I knew as soon as I tell her, her world changes again. She doesn't have any parents now. And so I waited just, probably just a few seconds, but again, it felt like minutes. And because I knew it was going to change. And then again, I told her and she just, just broke down that hysterical cry. And so we live this life, like my wife and I live this life, like knowing like it's not promised tomorrow. And we just live that way because she doesn't have her parents. And it's really influenced the way that we make decisions, the way that we take vacations, the way that we just spend our money and we live our life because we're not promised tomorrow. And so, I think that helped me make that decision because I'm like, okay, we got 5 years left with the kids, or my oldest 5 or 6 or 7 years at the house. And I'm going to work for why? To have more money. And what else do we really need? We live in a small town in South Dakota, Matt. Like we have everything that we need. Of course, I want more stuff. My wife's totally satisfied with everything. She might want an extra horse or two, but I need another vacation home. Why would I need another a vacation home? And would I trade that to not spend time with my kids and my wife for 5 years? Like, no, I would never do that. And so it's just that filter that we have, and a lot of it stems from loss and just living life that way.
So it came from these shared experiences with your wife, and before your children. Was it workaholic, go all day, every day? Was it that builder mindset? And then it took this shared experience with family to evolve to this place?
No, there was a time when we didn't have kids that we worked a lot. Both my wife and I worked a lot in the business, but I always like to have fun. Like I'm a guy that likes to have fun. So I'd work hard and then play hard. And then we chose to move from Texas. One, it was 100 days of 100 degrees. So it was horribly hot there and I couldn't handle that. And then we moved back home to where I live in South Dakota, where my parents live. And so it was intentional to move here so the kids could grow up around their grandparents and we get some free babysitting along the way and things like that. But, family was important. And that's why we moved here. So family, and I grew up with amazing parents. Like I have amazing parents who parented me and my sister in an amazing way. And so I was so blessed to grow up like that. And so family was always important to us, high priority, but having her experience that loss, it just like we just know that we're not promised tomorrow. I took Dad on a fishing trip to Alaska this year. I did it 5 years ago as a bucket list thing. Like, let's go. I'm taking you to Alaska. I'm paying for it. You don't have to worry about a thing. We're going to Alaska and going fishing because I want that memory. I selfishly want that memory with you. And it was a bucket list thing. And then this last summer, I'm like, let's do it again because he's got more gray on his head and he's getting older. And so like, let's do this bucket list thing again. So I'm like, I'm paying for everything. You don't have to worry about it, but I want to create those memories. So we're very much about just creating memories with and my wife's so good. She wants me to create those memories with my dad, with my mom, with us as a family. She's always invited them to go places with us, vacation with us, do things with us because of what she's experienced. So yes, I used to work a lot. We used to work a lot when we were younger. but I think that's the stage of life that we were in, more than anything else. And then we just like with the kids, they just know that they are valued, that they are important, that we place a high value as a family with them over most everything else.
Mm, amazing. You had me for a moment there, man. I had a tear in my eye. That call that you're about your father-in-law. That's the call that I got when my dad died, and
Mm.
that I remember that day after Memorial Day, 2005. That was the day. That was the worst day ever for me. So I just pardon me for saying that out loud right now. I just it triggered something in me, and yeah, that was a tough one. I wonder in that moment, how did you show up to best support your wife? Because I've not had that experience to support my wife through those types of losses yet. And how did you show up in that time, Erik?
I'm trying to remember. It's literally kind of a blur right now. I knew
Yeah,
at that moment, like time stood still. It stood still. But
yeah,
we were strong together, and and um and I so her dad was in Brazil, lived in Brazil, is a missionary to Brazil with his new wife, and like I just my wife knew whatever she wanted to do, whatever it took, like it was a yes from me. If she needed to get an emergency passport or get on a $10,000, $20,000 ticket to get there for whatever reason, that it was a yes for me. So from a support standpoint, she knew whatever it was that it was a yes from me. And then
yeah,
what we and this a few months later we flew out his wife, and they had two kids together, young kids, and we flew them out here to spend a week with us over Thanksgiving. So, it was those types of things that we did, and she just knew that I was going to support her no matter what she needed during that time. And then she, I wanted to understand what she was going through, because she's like, hey, I thought it was a worse thing losing a parent through a long battle with cancer. And then now I lost one just immediately, and I never got to say goodbye. And so
mm,
challenging in different ways. And so I started to understand just the grieving process. And then I wanted to help her grieve the way that she needed to grieve, because she didn't really grieve the first time the right way. And so she learned a lot through that. And so just there for her, Matt. I don't know what else to say, but I was just there for her, and she knew
yeah,
it.
yeah. Well, I didn't expect to go down this route to start our discussion, and appreciate you for letting us into that personal side. So thank you for that, Erik. And as we transition, I'd love to ask about your business and what is your passion and what you're bringing to the world today professionally. So please share a little bit about your businesses and what's important to you today.
So I got like two main things in my business world. I got the franchising side, and I've got the passive investing side. And the passive investing sides with my business partner Justin Donald, who you know very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
And the franchising side, that's how I grew up in business. I started in franchising over 20 years ago, and I bought my first franchise as a franchisee, and eventually had 7 different brands as a franchisee. And most of them were really good. I had some failures along the way, a couple that were just, not good, but that's business, that's business. And then just learned a lot about the franchising model. Worked at corporate offices, worked as a master. I owned as a master franchisee, had like 40 something locations of a certain brand in Austin, Texas. And that's really where I got my start. So I learned how to kind of be a sub franchisor. I learned how to be a franchisee. learned how to sell franchises, broker franchise deals, and then eventually got on the franchisor side, started a franchisor. And then currently at this point, I've got this Facebook group that is a very active Facebook group for franchising. And out of there, I help franchisors and franchisees. Franchisees, I help them through a mastermind because I was a franchisee for so many years. I still am. I'm a passive investor in a number of different brands. Very passive. I don't do anything. And then on the franchisor side, I've seen everything most everything on the franchisor side. And so I get to help franchisors go from 0 to 100 franchisees, which is kind of the magic number in franchise. You want to get to 100 franchisees. And
Okay.
and I have a company called Front Street Equity Partners where me and my 3 other business partners help young franchise brands. Maybe they have 0 locations, just corporate locations, just getting started, or we have one that had 40 locations when they started working with them. And we basically help franchise brands create enterprise value in a compressed time frame. So that really what that means, like if they're worth $1 million today, let's get them to $50 million in a short period of time and put guardrails in place so the wheels don't fall off the bus and the franchisees are supported. They make really good decisions. They have really good contracts. They have really good talent and are able to get there. So we do that through advisory. And that's where we have portfolio companies, and we do that and we help them sell franchises as well. And we do some with private equity if they need capital. So that's a fun one. Like I love working on that business. It's just we created that, Matt. There's the 4 of us created that.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to do something that we all really enjoyed doing. We didn't want to sign up for something that we didn't enjoy doing. And we had early conversations like, hey, would you want to do this? Would you want to do that? We're all open with each other like, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. So we created this company to only do the things that really energize us in business, in franchising. And so we wake up like excited to have calls with brands and meet new people and help these brands create that enterprise value. And 2 of our companies right now are women owned. And they're just such rock stars. These 2 women are amazing. And we look for amazing founders that there's something special about them. They have that it factor. They have the hustle. They're just somebody that, people would want to follow. And so that's what we look for in founders, and they have to have an amazing brand. And so that's a fun one, man. That's a larger company that we have, and we're doing more with that. But that's called Front Street Equity Partners, and we help franchisors. So that's
Wow.
my franchising side.
Holy, we're going to get to the passive investing side, and I'm going to throw in some recommendations there because I'm a part of that. Let's stick with franchising for a minute. You've kept us up here at this level. Can you take us one level deeper, just a little bit about how do you go from 1 million to 50 million? Like, I'm going to go sell more and open some more locations. I have 1 location. What do I not know? How do we go from 1 to 50 million?
Well, one, the enterprise value of franchise systems or like that valuation can be as high as 20x multiple, 20x on your EBITDA, 20x on that profit, which is, pretty high multiple, very high multiple. A lot of Main Street businesses are selling for a 4x multiple. So our software companies sell for a higher multiple like this. So a lot of people don't know franchising can sell for really high multiples. And because it's just reoccurring revenue. You think about it, it's like you create this system and it just keeps going, and these franchisees are on contracts and they're making money, and it just doesn't stop for the franchisor. So you just need to get to scale. Problem is, a lot of these franchisors, they don't know how to get to scale. And they might have the best mousetrap, the best product, the best service, but if they don't know how to sell that and announce that and help people discover that, in other words, bring in new franchisees to discover the best mousetrap, the best service, the best products, they will never reach scale. So that's where we come in, and we're like, okay, you've got an amazing corporate unit. You've got your franchisees are amazing, but you just don't know how to sell, and your contracts are kind of messed up. They're making special contracts for each franchisee when that should be standard for everybody. And so there's just little things where they are making rookie mistakes, which most all young franchisors, emerging franchisors make rookie mistakes, but what they don't realize, it costs them dearly, down the road. So we just put guardrails in place. We put systems and structure in place. We let them know, like, this is how you should be, growing this thing. This is why you should be charging this amount of royalty. This is why you have this in your contracts. And so they start to understand all of this stuff. And then we help them sell franchises, because we have the best of the best that are working on our team to sell franchises, and not just to sell to anybody, but to sell to people that are going to execute the system well and hopefully do well in that particular franchise system. So the goal is to get franchisees, as many as you can, where you don't overwhelm the franchisor. And the franchisor able to support these franchisees with really good talent that have both industry and franchising experience. And you get to a point in that hockey stick growth curve where all of a sudden you can get a higher multiple, because next year the business is going to double or triple. And you can just see, based on the trajectory, where you have another 50 franchisees coming in, another 50 that are going to be in pre-opening, another 35 leases signed. They can just see where it's going. And so you can really get a very high multiple, sometimes on forward-looking financials versus historical financials, because of where the franchisor is going. And that's what happened with Orange Theory. Orange Theory got crazy multiples, but they were undervalued if they would have just looked at the trailing 12 months. And that's why they started looking at the forward-looking 12 months and based the valuation off of that. And so you just need to know when to sell it, how to sell it, and how to get to the point where you can sell it. And then you're at that magical point where you can get really high multiples. And then somebody buys it, where they can just, do certain things to the business so they can turn around and increase the value and have a very nice exit themselves a second time 5 years later. That happened to Sola Salons. I mean, it's textbook. There's a playbook for this, but most people don't know how to do it because they've never been in franchising before.
Yeah.
When we can go deeper and deeper, Matt, we can go deeper into any of that.
Yeah. Well, then take me down the rabbit hole. Take me down the rabbit hole on one more of those. Let's take Sola, for example. What can you say about Sola Salon that is an interesting case study for any franchisee, franchisor, business entrepreneur out there listening?
So Sola was interesting because it had about probably, I don't know the exact number, but just call it 50 locations open. And most of them were sold to friends and family or customers so very organic type growth. Happy franchisees doing well. And then they started to really ramp up franchise development, which is another word for selling franchises. So they ramped up selling franchises, and all of a sudden they got attention of a lot of different buyers out there that were successful business people, or they're successful in corporate America, and they wanted an income stream that was outside of their job. Sola fit that bill because you didn't have to have a lot of employees. We had 12 locations with about 6 full-time employees. So I was a franchisee of Sola. We had 12 locations with 6 full-time franchisees. And so it made it really nice from a management perspective. We didn't have a whole lot to manage. We had one person that we managed, and they managed everybody else below them. And so that was a really nice model. So easy model. There's financing for it. Low employees. The franchisor had franchisees that were already happy and successful. They just didn't pour gasoline on the sales engine, and they poured gasoline on the sales engine, and then it just took off. And all of a sudden they have 100 locations open, 150 locations open. And now private equity is really interested in that because they know they can, what is planned to be open. They probably had another 100 that were going to be open in the next year or year and a half. And so they just know based on historical data that that's going to, contribute X amount of profit. And so they sold that. They sold it for a lot of money. The founders did. And then private equity came in, and that's when we sold. We sold our 12 locations to private equity. So private equity came in, they bought the corporate office, they bought our 12 locations and some others. And then they went in and bought another brand in the spa space. So now they had two brands. This private equity company had two brands, and then they just shared resources and got it to hundreds of locations in a about 4 to 5 year period, and sold it for way more money. Like everybody is making money with this. I mean, you just think about it, selling something. I don't know the real numbers, but just call it 50 to 80 million on the first sale, and call it many hundreds of millions on the second sale. But it's just predictable. And so that's just kind of how it works.
You spoke with a sophistication of someone who's been there and done that and seen everything in there. And just a quick pause. What was your very first job or first sales position in your entire life? Just take us back, because people are out there listening. They're like, I would love to do something like that. How did you all get started in all this in the very beginning, like your first sale you ever made of any kind, Erik?
I was getting my real estate license. I was in classes getting my real estate license. I was learning about option contracts and things like that. I was learning from my future broker. I had a lawn business, and I was out there mowing lawns, and it was hot day in Virginia Beach. Actually, I was in Chesapeake mowing a lawn, planting flowers, and a lady comes out. She's like, "You want some lemonade?" I'm like, "Yes, I want some lemonade." Older lady. And she basically said, "What do you want to do when you grow up?" I said, "I'm going to be a real estate investor." She's like, "Oh, we did that 20 years ago." Well, tell me more. It's like, we bought a condo down by the ocean 20 years ago, and now it's just a rental. Now, it's not a nice condo. Don't think nice condo by the beach, but older condo down towards the ocean. And I said, "What are you doing with it now?" She's like, "We want to sell it, but our real estate agent makes money every month because he manages it for us, and he won't sell it." Well, how much do you want for it? She's like, "We don't want anything for it. We just want somebody to take over our payments." I said, "Let me get this straight. You've been paying on this thing for 20 years. It's built up. You've built up equity in it. You've been paying off the mortgage every month." She's like, "Yeah." I said, "Let me see your mortgage statement." I said, "Assumable mortgage." And so I wrote up an option contract and said, "I'll buy your home and I will pay the closing costs. And I have 30 days to close on it." And she said, "Erik, you look like a nice young man. This is exactly what we want to do." And so I sold that. I bought that from her. But I asked my parents to be a business partner. I said, "Hey, will you want to partner in this 50-50?" And they said, "Yeah." Actually, they said no at first. They said, "It sounds too good to be true." And I said, "If you don't, then my real estate broker will." And he said, "Erik, I don't know how you got this deal." He told my parents, "I don't know how we got this deal, but Mr. and Mrs. Van Horn, if you don't do this deal with him, I'll do this deal with him." So that's when I bought that house with my parents as business partners. They paid for the closing costs because I didn't have any money for closing costs at the time. And so that's how I got my first deal. I sold my parents on that one. And it was a good one. So I got my first probably $20,000, and I rolled that into my first franchise. And my first franchise was Liberty Tax that I eventually bought there because the corporate office was in Virginia Beach. So in other words, I bought this house on the beach and I made my first $20,000. I rolled that into my first franchise because my parents bought that house for me within like a month or two. So I rolled that money into my first franchise. I opened up my first franchise of Liberty Tax in Kansas City. And then I emailed the founder and I said, "Hey, I'd like to sell franchises for you after this tax season's over. Can I do that?" And he said, "I'll give you a shot." And again, I barely had enough money to buy that franchise. I was just, living, not on a lot of money. And so that's I started to sell franchises that year I'm at, and I made six figures. And then and I realized like this sales thing is great, and I continued to make six figures and just got into nice six figures. And then I'll wrap it up here. I left that job to take a risk with my wife to go open up more locations of businesses in Austin. So I left that easy, cush paycheck to go to bet on myself even more. And looking back, there's people that are still working there, doing the same thing, making the same kind of money, but they just didn't take any risks. So I'm grateful for I'm grateful to that older lady that said, Erik, you just seem like a nice guy, and I want to do this for you. And it made me realize like I just need to be the guy that solves a problem. I need to be the guy that can find an opportunity here, and if I have an opportunity, I can find money, I can find a solution, and I can just be the middleman. And I've done that numerous times over my career. But your question was like my first sales job. I sold the lady, and then I sold a bunch of franchises.
That was awesome. And what the audience may not know is in the middle of that story, my internet's busted out, and you're just so smooth. You just kept sharing the story, and that was awesome. Everything amazing that you've shared, Erik. And one avenue we've not gone down this avenue yet is the second part, the passive investing side. And I'd love to hear a little bit from your angle about your passive income, the tribe of investors side. And I'd first throw out there that I'm a member of that mastermind, and I have been for a couple of years now, and it's amazing. And Erik's amazing as a teacher in breaking down complex and making it simple, and very open to questions, which is one of the reasons I love him. So with that endorsement, please talk a little bit about the tribe of investors and anything else on the passive side.
Our mutual friend, Justin Donald, and I started that. Justin has a group called the Lifestyle Investors, and it's a very high net worth mastermind. And we wanted something that we could just roll out to a broader audience. And so we partnered on the tribe of investors. And Justin wrote a book called The Lifestyle Investor. He's known as the Lifestyle Investor. And he's a good friend, great human being, great husband, great father. We are connected on so many different levels. So it's easy for us to partner on that. And what we do is we just help a lot of people understand passive investing, cash flow investing, all kinds of things to build wealth. Whether you have a W-2 job or you are in business or you're 1099, and we got a lot of deal flow, private deal flow that goes in there that our members have access to. I think that probably one of the most unique things about it is we don't make any money except for the fee to join. And it's always tough to know who your trusted advisors are. If there's commissions involved, are there ways that they're making money that you may or may not know about? And so what Justin and I like to do is we charge a fee, and we don't make any money anywhere else. We get offered all the time to make money different ways, but we like to pass on any savings. We like to make the deals better for our members by passing on any savings that we get offered on these deals and pass it on to the members. So there's what the other thing that I've kind of discovered along the way is how so few wealthy, successful people have very weak advisors, weak CPAs, weak financial planners, just weak advisors around them, from insurance to, taxes to strategy. And so it's fun to be able to make introductions and have sessions where we're teaching different things inside the mastermind that help a lot of people save a lot of money and make really good decisions when it comes to their finances.
That's right. And again, I can endorse that, because I have found my new CPA and new tax strategy through this group, and made some amazing connections that have helped in business and personal growth as well. So I will stop. But you know what? I'm not going to stop. I cannot stop trumpeting. Tribe of Investors Group has been very positive influence in my life. So from the tribe of investors to all the franchising, you're heavily involved in business and helping people develop and doing it for yourself and for others. So you've got that. You're heavily focused on your family as well. So you've painted this great picture. And I really wanted to just make sure that we pause on that because team and listeners out there, Erik did not have it easy. He started by trying to sell. So he was doing flowers for someone in their yard when he had the idea to partner when they started talking to him. Right. So anyone out there can do it when there is a will and there's a purpose driven behind that to get where you want to go. Anyone can do it. And Erik is one of the best examples I've ever met in that. And he did it the right way with integrity and values and whatnot. So I wanted to trumpet that because I've been a fan for a while. So, Erik, tell us a little bit more about your franchising group. I mean, how do we find out more? How do we get involved? Just tell us
Probably
how we
the
find more.
easiest way on the franchising side is go to scalablefranchise.com, scalablefranchise.com. If you're a franchisee, you'll see things there for you, or if you're a franchisor, you want to buy a franchise, whatever it is, anything franchising, that's probably the place to go. You can get in my free Facebook group on franchising. We got over 5,000 members in there. And, that's a good place if you are thinking about buying a franchise or becoming a franchisor or franchising your business. Let's go to Scalable Advisors, jump into my Facebook group. Facebook group is franchisesecretsgroup.com. You can find my podcast. I have a lot of cool people on my podcast that are franchising related, and the podcast is called Franchise Secrets, franchisesecrets.com. And my company that we have portfolio companies of franchise brands is called Front Street Equity Partners. So it's frontstreetep.com. But if you had one website to go to scalablefranchise.com.
Scalablefranchise.com. Excellent. Excellent. It's been amazing to learn from you and just to hear your life story and to feel the energy behind it, because the energy is like a really a clean, I would say a noble, wanting to serve other people energy. And I've had some people on the show, maybe not some people on the show, I've met a lot of business people in my time that have been all about money and just result. And I feel that you are one of the best mixes of, I want to help you get the result and I care about the people. So just thank you for that. And thank you for being a great mentor and leader in the tribe of investors. And having said that, you've hit the lightning round here, Erik. So I got a couple last questions for you to wrap things up. Ding, ding, ding. The name of our show is the Eternal Optimist Podcast. When I say Eternal Optimist, what does that mean to you?
Always, the glass is always half full. Like, you have a choice, and to choose to see the world and everything around you as half empty or half full. And I choose to see things half full. It's natural for me, Matt. It's so natural for me. But when I think of the eternal optimist, I think of the glass is always half full, always.
Thank you. And
is that the right answer? Is that the right answer, man?
I feel the way you delivered the answer, always half full, always half full. It's natural. I love that it's natural. I love that it's always. So I say that is the right answer. You do win the prize. And I will deliver that prize when I see you in San Antonio. Am I going to see you in San Antonio here in a couple months at the?
I hope so. One of my favorite times is to be around front row dads and our friends.
Mm-hmm. Great. Well, so next question would be around books. Now, you've already mentioned The Lifestyle Investor, which is the book Justin Donald wrote, and I have that copy. He's been on the show. Love Justin. Love that book. If there's one or two other books that have had a big impact in your world you'd recommend, what might those books be, Erik?
Gosh, it's so hard. I think I feel silly saying it, Matt, but the two books that had the biggest impact on me are Rich Dad Poor Dad, which everybody kind of recommends that. But Robert was on my podcast, Robert Kiyosaki, and he said, like, that's an accounting book. And so sometimes I just go back and read that one, or really the cash flow quadrant. And it really helps you understand that where you want to go from business owner to investor. So it paints a really simple picture. And I can go back and look at that book, look at some of the key items in that book. I'm like, it just kind of keeps me on track. So the other one is the E-Myth Revisited. Again, such a basic book. But that's really, like, those have probably had the biggest impact on me. But dude, there's so many different books. I have so many different books around me, but those are, I think Goggins books. He's got so much language in those books. I think you can get them without the language these days. But just hearing, like, if you ever need to get motivated, I like listening to Goggins, but also understand, and this is with all books, like he's not, I'm never going to be him. I don't want to be him, but I can take little nuggets of his motivation and what motivates him to just motivate myself. But yeah, that was an interesting one as well. So I know I feel like I needed to give you better answers for that, but that's what I've got for you.
No, that's a great answer. And speaking of the E-Myth revisited, that's one of my favorites as well. I wonder, have you ever felt like in one of your businesses that you were the technician, like you were stuck in the business as the bottleneck, and then you had to overcome that by finding your other people around you?
Yeah, and to that point, like I felt I would feel bad about being an operator. Like I used to feel bad. Like I used to think business. The better business people were like the COO, great at operations. And I was better at vision and better at relationships and better at marketing. And so I started to realize later on, I guess not realize, but become more comfortable into being that visionary, being the relationship person and being the strategy person. And that's, and that's valuable. Because so many early on, some of the better business owners that I knew were great operators, but they didn't really scale beyond their operational influence. So the answer is yes. The other good book, like another good book, is a 10x is easier than 2x with Dan Sullivan.
It's a newer one,
and that's a good one. Alex Hormozy has good books. 100 million offers, 100 million leads. Who, not how. That's a really good one. Finding the who's and just not how. So there's some other ones. Ray Dalio, he's a great author, reading some stuff like Principles and whatnot. So there's some more, but those were, the ones that had the most influence are those first two that I gave you.
This next hour is brought to you by Erik's books, and we're going to keep reading through Erik's favorite books. I loved everything you just said. Those were great recommendations. The last question, if there is a song or if there is a certain type of music that really fills your bucket, that really just gets you excited and feeling great, what type of music or song is the one for you, Erik?
Jeez, I don't know. This is where I'm going to totally bomb that, because I listen to all kinds of music. Like I listen to country. I'm going to some country concerts. I'm going to a U2 concert in Vegas with my wife coming up. So like, I love it all. There's nothing, it's just whatever I'm in the mood for is, I'm not listening to country when I'm out there playing pickleball. We're listening to stuff that really, really gets me excited. But if I'm going fishing in Alaska, you better believe I have some country playing in the car.
Oh, heck yeah. Awesome. Mr. Erik Van Horn, thank you so much for being on the show today. ScalableFranchise.com, Erik Van Horn, Tribe of Investors. Just thanks so much. We love you. We appreciate you. And thank you, my friend.
Matt, you are amazing. The things that you do for so many people that you will probably never know, the respect that you have out there in the world of front row dads in business, in the Tribe of Investors, with so many people. I hear your name all the time. And whenever I hear your name, I would put $100,000 bet that it's going to be something positive. It's going to be something amazing. And so you are one of those guys that is that eternal optimist. You're one of those guys that can just go into a room, light them up, and make a positive influence. So thank you for everything that you do.
My pleasure. And thank you, my friend. Thank you.